Welcome to humanitywins.net. Please read the important disclaimer on your screen. All of the content provided is for entertainment purposes only. It should not be taken as medical or legal advice. Please contact your doctor or lawyer if you require such advice. Thank you. The show starts right now. Hello, welcome to this new episode of humanitywins.net. This is episode 176 from March the 17th of the year 2023. Today's a Friday. This week, I have decided, as I shared on Wednesday, to go back to 3 episodes, new episodes per week, as we're kind of finishing up with the rebuild on the BitChute channel. We only have a handful of episodes, of old episodes to go to have a full, complete channel there. I know you have been following for a while, or you're kind of a new subscriber, but months ago, out of the blue, we were deleted, actually first on BitChute and then on Brighton. And, we're fighting against this, trying to be good citizens of these platforms that host us for the time being. And as I shared a couple of times, I think at the end, this channel is going to belong on a new platform that still doesn't exist, that we kind of know and trust, because of all the subjects we touch, we're not content for even alternative platforms, because we don't push fear. I'm not into fear mongering. That's kind of the bread and butter of these other platforms, and we are not. This topic today is mainstream. This video today will be fine, for example, on YouTube, but we mix up with alternative, or through their air quotes videos, and we touch into everything. So eventually, after 10, 20, 30, be deleted. Like started on YouTube fine, and then eventually so we are kind of done with the rebuild by now. We have like 15 more episodes to go. We're gonna upload 2 new per week, so in a couple of months we'll go back to 3 new episodes per week on BitChute and Rumble. Okay, sorry about that, rambling about the channel update. And I want to welcome all of you new subscribers on both platforms. Thank you very much for latching on, for subscribing. I hope the channel is up to your expectations. And as always, and as I share with everyone that has watched me in this year and a month going on of first Change Engineer and now humanitywins.net, thank you very much. You honor me with your time, so I try to give you my best. In this case, we're going to go with a mainstream subject. As you probably have noticed, I'm very fond of aviation, civil aviation. I have done several videos about this, and actually our most watched video on BitChute, and overall it's close to 2,000 views, is the one on Malaysian Airlines flight MH370, which, by the way, there's a new series on Netflix that I suggest to you about this topic. I think it's called MH370. I don't recall the rest of the title, but you can find it easily by searching there on Netflix. It's only 3 episodes. It's very, it's very well done. It's totally mainstream. It's not gonna go into what I believe happened, which is it was basically, as I shared on that video, that this airplane and its content we're never gonna find it. Okay, but if you are fond of these topics of civilian mysteries, and that is a good mystery, I suggest it's a good series. It doesn't have any issues about that. So after saying all that, today's episode is about the Gimli glider miracle, Air Canada flight 143. This happened a long time ago in 1983, so that's 4 years now. This year 2023 is going to be 4 years in the summer. I believe it was in July. I don't recall the exact date, but on this, what happened on this airplane, it was a brand new airplane for the airline Air Canada. It was the 767, very advanced for that time, designed by the American company Boeing. This case, the series of the aircraft was the 767-200, which was the first one that came out for the airlines. I believe it probably started in 1982 or 83, so it was a brand new aircraft at the time, very modern, only 2 engines, which was uncommon. Only smaller aircraft will have 2 engines at that time, like the DC-9 or the 737. The first larger aircraft that came a few years before the 767, which is they're very similar in design, was the Airbus A300, okay? In this move of the aviation industry, the civil aviation industry, of trying to have less engines, because more engines, more gas consumption, more maintenance, more cost. So bigger aircraft like the 747 at the time had 4 engines. Medium-sized aircraft such as the DC-8 or the 707, which are designs from the 50s, 1950s, had 4 engines on the wings. But smaller aircraft such as the DC-9, such as the Caravelle from France, had 2 engines on the back. So you probably, if you are like 40 to 50 to 60 years old, you probably remember all these type of aircrafts. I flew on them when I was a child and, younger adult. These aircraft are kind of gone now. The 767 is still used a little bit, mostly the 300 variant, which is a little bit bigger than the one involved on this accident. But going into what happened on this flight, it was a matter of wrong measures. Yes, it's amazing that fortunately everyone was saved. There were no injuries, not even injuries, not even deaths, but not even injuries happened on this accident. The pilot, the captain, and the co-pilot, it's a 2-man cockpit, the 767. That was also a change at that time. Still, most aircrafts had 3 pilots, especially larger aircrafts. They had a flight engineer, okay? They had a little space there in the cockpit for another pilot that was replaced by technology, by computers. So all the tracking, the destination and all that, these computations were done by computers. Previously, they were done by the 3rd pilot, the flight engineer. So on this 2-pilot cockpit, captain and first officer, they did a great job gliding this aircraft, gliding from, I believe it was 38,000 feet when they had a fuel starvation. Again, they departed Montreal with 45% of the fuel they thought they had. And the problem was, it was with aviation incidents, and most accidents of this type, it's a chain of mistakes. It's a chain of things that happen. It's not only one thing. So on this flight, if I remember correctly, we're going to see a video that explains it better. But what happened is, first of all, the device, the part of the aircraft that was responsible for the fuel management and kind of the fuel gauge, let's call it, it's not only a gauge, it's much more than that, but the fuel gauge, which by the way, you have a principal and a backup. The principal one was damaged. And so you will say, okay, let's go with the backup. The problem was there was a maintenance error. Then during testing, apparently the mechanic that was testing this in Montreal decided or made a mistake that it was also the backup was not working. Because this was a new design and they were having problems with these specific parts. There were no replacements available. Actually, they were going to change this fuel, let's call it fuel gauge, fuel management system on arrival in Edmonton, which was the destination of the flight. So they decided they could do the flight if they manually test how much fuel they had. So they use a stick. Yeah, basically putting a stick on the tanks. And if you measure the height of the fuel through conversions to a formula, you can come up with how much fuel you have. The problem was Air Canada had imperial units, okay, on its aircraft. So it had gallons, it had pounds, those type of units, okay. And the Boeing 767 was all the calculations to know how much fuel you need, and that were in metric system, okay. It was kilos, it was liters, okay. So these even if they're very easy formulas to move from one to the other, and for example, 2.2 pounds are 1 liter, and that's the reason the aircraft had 45% of the fuel the pilots thought, because if you divide 1 between 2.2, it's going to give you 45%, okay? Or 454, I believe, is grams are 1 pound. That's also the reason. So basically, the problem was the pilots thought they had X amount of kilos, and actually they had X amount of pounds. So let's say 100 is, well, not 100, but let's say 10,000 or something like that. They thought they had 10,000 kilos of fuel, and actually they had 10,000 pounds of fuel, which was insufficient for the full flight. Why did this mistake happen? When you put the stick in, so they measure a height, and they use the formula for pounds, okay? So that was the thing. They said, and then they gave the pilot, you have X amount of kilos. So it was a chain of mistakes, okay? Starting with the fact that you shouldn't be flying an airplane that you don't have your full main and backup instrumentation functioning, okay? So basically what happened in a nutshell is this aircraft departs Montreal, and I believe it made a stop in Ottawa, fine, which is the capital of Canada. And then it took out from Ottawa and over Ontario. It ran at 38,000 feet on what's called fuel starvation. Basically, there was no more fuel. First, one of the engines stopped. The pilots thought they had a problem with the actual engine, so they requested an emergency landing in Winnipeg. And when they were preparing for the emergency landing and starting a descent, the second engine ran out, so it was a fuel problem, not an engine problem. And at that time, they had to glide the airplane with no thrust, just using the aerodynamic force and actually descending to be able to sustain a speed that will actually keep the airplane flying, okay, like a glider. So it was a huge glider. In this case, it was a miracle because the pilot, the captain, was trained on gliders, and he was a great glider. Because if I recall correctly, after this happened, they put 10 crews, different crews, random crews. Air Canada and Boeing, I think, tested this. They put 10 crews on a flight simulator, and all 10 crews crashed, and everyone would have been killed. In the same exact situation, the captain was subjected, but they were very lucky, and I have to say this cannot be random. I mean, he was an expert glider, so I think it was just a test of some kind, and it was supposed to go well after all. So let's watch the video together so I can give you my final thoughts.
It's a tale that has become legendary in aviation history, a landing so dramatic, so risky, and one that defied the odds. So much so that even Hollywood is thinking of making a movie out of it. It was 35 years ago that Air Canada Flight 143 lost power on its way from Montreal to Edmonton, and the pilots managed to glide the plane safely and landed here on this trip in Gimli, Manitoba.
They made Canadian aviation history.
July 23rd, 1983, Captain Bob Pearson and his co-pilot Maurice Quintal pilot a Boeing 767 en route to Edmonton with 61 passengers and 8 crew members on board. But an error in calculation involving a switch from the imperial system to metric meant that the plane only had enough fuel for half its flight and lost power mid-air.
The engines failed at about 30-odd thousand feet, and they had to glide. Fortunately, Captain Bob Pearson was an established glider pilot, and so he was now in the world's biggest glider.
Winnipeg was too far away, but co-pilot Quintal happened to train in Gimli, Manitoba, and was able to advise Pearson that there were runways long enough for their landing. The captain chose a runway at an old Air Force base.
That's the runway that Captain Pearson first saw, and that's the one he committed to land on, because he only had one shot to get it right. And he did not know that it had been converted to a racetrack.
We looked up into the sky and saw this giant airliner making its way through the sky.
Art Zook and his 2 friends were teenagers at the time, hanging out at the racetrack on their bikes. The friends, now referred to as the Runway Boys, saw as Captain Pearson angled the plane to slow down, but didn't realize it was heading right towards them.
And as it hit the ground, that was the only time I really heard a sound, and it was this deep thud, and you just felt the earth move. We didn't have a sense that it was heading our direction, and given the side slip maneuver that Captain Pearson was doing, it was difficult to tell even which direction the plane was going. You see something that's that unbelievable, that incredible. It just takes a while for it to even sink in that this is really happening.
Miraculously, Pearson landed the plane successfully with no passengers or crew members getting injured and no one on the ground getting hurt.
So the 2 of them together managed to, through their skill and planning and keeping their cool, saved everyone on board and saved the aircraft too.
The Gimli glider, a phenomenal accomplishment in aviation, inspiring documentaries, books, and TV dramas. Now, as I mentioned, this story may get the Hollywood treatment, but it is still early days in terms of what may become of that. As for this weekend, Captain Pearson will be here to commemorate the 35th anniversary, and there will be several events to mark that legendary day. In Gimli, Manitoba, Erica Natividad, City News.
Okay, so as I said, it's basically what I mentioned before, that there was a mistake. First of all, the systems of the aircraft, which would have taken care of the fuel situation to know exactly how much fuel you can carry. An aircraft cannot carry more fuel than they need for emergencies, okay, because there's a cost involved. Fuel has a weight, and the heavier the aircraft is upon departure, the more fuel is going to burn. Okay, so in a way, it's not like, okay, let's fill up the tanks if it was a short trip, which was for the 767. It was a very short trip. At that time, this aircraft was designed for international routes. And at that time, for some reason, maybe it was because they were just introducing the type on Air Canada, they were using it for domestic flights. Because again, flight from Montreal to Edmonton is not far, okay? So it was not a matter of just fill up the tanks. That's not going to happen. They need to calculate, of course, a certain amount of fuel, and then you have to consider emergencies. Usually aircraft have 1 to 1 hour and a half of extra fuel in case they have to make some loops around an aircraft. And even with that, they have to decide there's a moment that there's traffic to land into the aircraft. Especially, I know that happens a lot in New York City. They have to decide there's a moment they go what is called to the alternate. Okay, so they have to go to an alternate airport and land there safely because they're gonna run out of fuel. In this case, as I said, the problem basically was the pilots thought they had kilos and they actually had pounds, which weigh 2.2 times less. Okay, so they had 45% of the available fuel they thought, and of course that was gonna run out way before arriving into Edmonton. At first, they wanted to go into Winnipeg, which is not far from Gimli. It's probably like 20 miles, 30 miles. But they were constantly having to do calculations manually as this aircraft was brand new at the time. It was one of the first aircraft with what is called a glass cockpit, which is basically LED monitors at the time, very advanced. But what happens is when you have fuel starvation, it's actually the fuel that provides the electricity. I mean, the engine, sorry about that. The fuel moves the engines, and the engines provide the electricity for these systems to run. In this case, there was a little turbine. It was prepared when, with this very rare event of running out of fuel or both engines failing in flight. This turbine actually provided a little electricity that could actually help them out with most systems, but they didn't have what is called a vertical speed, which basically how much you are climbing or how much you're descending. So working out with the flight controllers on the ground in Winnipeg, they were able to actually calculate that they were not going to make it to Winnipeg, okay? And it would have been a disaster, okay? Because if they would fall short to the runway, not only probably most passengers on board would have died, but also a few people on the ground for sure. So they were able to say, hey, we're not going to make it. And the best option was Gimli, which the co-pilot had, again, all things by chance, okay? The co-pilot had actually done his military training there in Gimli, and he remembered the runway and said, yeah, it's probably enough for this type of aircraft, let's try it. And it was a miracle, okay? It was a miracle, as I said, that they were able, with no power, to land this medium to large size aircraft, the 767-200. The same type of aircraft, by the way, that was used on air quotes used, okay, on 9/11 on 2 occasions, I believe. The 767, actually, it was the 2 aircraft that slammed into the World Trade Center. Again, air quotes, because some of us believe something else happened. And actually, the other 2 aircraft, the one that allegedly crashed out there in Pennsylvania and the one that crashed into the Pentagon, they were 757s, which is a similar design, also from the same time, a little bit smaller. It was narrower. This aircraft, the 767, is considered what is called a wide body because it has 2 aisles. It's in economy class. It's 2, 3, 2. I remember I've flown on it quite a few times. And the 757 is actually 3 and 3 with a single aisle. So it's a little bit narrower. It's probably the same size as far as length, but it's not as heavy as the 767. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this one. As I shared, aviation is a passion of mine. Civil aviation is a passion of mine, and I thought let's end with a high note here. This is a miracle, okay? And this proves that when we humans we're very, very, very resourceful. And in this one, kudos to the captain, kudos to the first officer, because it was their skill, their keeping their cool, as we saw in the video, that was able to make this from a tragedy to a miracle, okay? So I remember this one. I was 10 years old at the time. I remember this one and quite a bit, and my father explained most of the facts that I've shared with you. And then I took interest of this story later on, and that's why I kind of remember basically, okay, all the facts that happened in this case. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this new format, and I'm going to go back to 3 episodes per week. Again, I'm trying to take all your comments, all your suggestions, and some of you felt that 2 episodes per week was not enough. And I agree. I hope if I could, I will make daily episodes from Monday to Sunday, or 2 per day, 14 episodes per week, and a lot of chats, a lot of interviews. Believe me, I'm not the one limiting. It's my time. This is just something I do on my free time. I have a business to run. I have new projects. I have, a family to feed. I have friends. I have family. I have a life, same as you. So I'm trying my best. Please bear with me as I'm trying to honor your time, honor you giving me your time with the best I got. I hope it's enough. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay for the last 3 minutes of the show, especially if you're a new subscriber, and if everything is okay. I shall see you back on Monday. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for making it to this part of the video. This is my favorite part. This is where I suggest to you that you discover yourself. You are not what you have been groomed to believe. You are this incredible being without limits that has eternal life, amazing strength, infinite wisdom, and a big, beautiful heart. All your limits are always self-imposed. Your best version in this reality is inside you. Your only mission on this life is to become a beacon of love and guidance. This version is ready to be discovered today. How do you discover yourself? The discovery process is a personal one. No one can do it for you. Dedicate 5 minutes a day to talk to yourself and the universe. Request to be connected and ask, who am I? Where do I come from? You will start getting signs, breadcrumbs, and signals. You will notice how your notions about those realities start disappearing. No more hierarchies, no more competition, no more complaining, no more depending on others. Discovering yourself equals to breaking your matrix. Your self-imposed limits will fall, and you will be ready to serve humanity and help break this spell and deception on us. But you must be patient to allow others to wake up at their time, through their own free will. That will be really soon, you will see, and that will start a new world. As you work towards your best version, you will notice how all emotions don't serve you anymore. Hate, fear, rage, pride, loss, envy, violence, justice, true violence, judgment of others, and other emotions will disappear from your mind and heart. You will understand those emotions serve only the evildoers and are not you. Please try to be understanding of others that don't think or feel like you. Everyone has a process. No one is right or wrong. We're all just different. Don't be concerned about being right, ever. Don't allow pride preventing you from patching things up with family and friends. It is very important you enjoy this life with your loved ones. Put in the work to patch things up and leave it to others to decide. Please relax and enjoy life. When everyone breaks their own matrix, humanity through our community consciousness will break the final spell. The new world will start and everything will gradually fall. Governments, hierarchies, and the medical and financial system will go from scarcity to abundance for all. Thank you very much for watching. Please share this episode. If you have any comments or suggestions, please use the comment section below. For private questions, conversations, and if you would like to appear on the show, please email me at hey@humanitywins.net. Please be sure to check out our friends from Waking the Future and their awaken-attire.com shop. They gave me my first opportunity to speak about this and I will be forever grateful. Link to their channel and shop on the show notes. Thank you again. Please don't forget to visit our website www.humanitywins.net. By giving me your time, you honor me. Have a very, very, very nice day.